Hi, it's Alistair at Electric Scotland. This is my video newsletter for the week. Basically, I'm focused a lot in this particular newsletter on the Commonwealth. So that's going to be a theme that you'll find through this newsletter. The newsletter is for February the 23rd, and I'm basically starting off with what I put up in the general news feeds. First story is about Brexit is rightly making us focus on the network and markets of the Commonwealth. So I thought I would give you a link to that because it's quite important when you look at all the networking links that are available through the Commonwealth. So I thought it would be an interesting read that. The next story is about farmers forced off their lands. This is due to the SNP's failed farm payment system. I think, to me, that illustrates that when a government gets things wrong, it has huge repercussions from the people that depend on them. And I just thought this story really illustrated why a section of our population are literally having to give up their farms, or they're going deep into debt because the SNP failed to get the computer system right, and they still haven't got it right, and it's still causing immense problems. And I think you need to really read that, and then from there I would question anything else that the government authorises as far as new technology goes. I mean, for example, they tried to computerise the police system, which would cost us a fortune, was a total failure. So every big IT project the government has started, it hasn't finished, and it's been way, way over budget. There's something fundamentally wrong, and we need to ask the questions, why can't they get it right? The next story I've got is The View from Down Under, because I got a lot of Australian and New Zealand visitors around the place. I thought it'd be quite nice to get their view on what's going on and what the possibilities are for business with Britain once we get the Brexit agreement going. The next story that piqued my interest was the low-cost fighters to serve tomorrow's air forces. Part of the reason for that was that Canada's got a huge problem in trying to decide what new fighter aircraft it should be purchasing. Because to be frank, that decision's just been put off and off and off, and Canada needs to make a decision. And so reading that, I thought, well, maybe that would be interesting to read. And in fact, I was quite interested in the article myself, and I learned quite a lot from it. So I hope you might find that of interest yourself. The next story I've got for you is German politics enters era of instability. This is quite a large article, and I think it serves to show how Germany has got a lot of issues, and sometimes we just see Germany as being an all-powerful, all-successful country, but in actual fact it's heading for, I think, a lot of problems in the future, and so I think it's worth your while studying it and understanding it in the context of European and international business. The next story I've got is 9 of Scotland's most underrated golf courses. Well, I know a lot of my visitors play golf, and I used to play golf, so I thought, well, it'd be quite nice to see some of the most underrated golf courses. So I thought I'd bring you that wee list. So if you wanted to play golf in Scotland, you might consider some of those. Next story I've got is the reality of the hype around Cool Dundee. Basically, it's saying 2018 will be the year of Dundee because they got the big V&A museum opening up, and there's a lot of developments on the waterfront. But it's also questioning whether there's a divide in Dundee, because while the area around the port is good, the northern area of Dundee is not doing so well, and it's contrasting the pluses and minuses of Dundee. And so again, I thought I found it an interesting article. Hope you do as well. Then, because we've got an Australian one, I've got the Super Canada option remains the best basis for a UK-EU trade deal. So again, I just thought that was interesting. It gives a bit of a Canadian perspective on things. Then the next one I've got is the Deer Cult Dilemma. The Scottish Highlands have a deer problem. Is shooting tens of thousands of them the only solution? Again, I just thought that was interesting. And then I've got why one tiny Scottish island is key to every Olympic curling stone. Again, I love these wee stories, you know, so I'm hoping you'll enjoy that one. It's got some good pictures there as well. Then the next one is, will Amazon Go capture the holy grail of retail? Again, I'm always looking to the future to see what might happen, and this is a good discussion on where Amazon might be going and where it might take the retail operations. And the final story is royal patron for the Scottish Tartans Authority. Basically, Prince Charles has agreed to become its patron. So that's good. So a wee story about that. Then on the Electric Canadian front, I'm continuing with the transactions of the Canadian Society of Civil Engineers. This time around it's the 1925 volume, and in it you'll get articles which include the Alberta tar sands, ceramics, economic aspects of the dye industry, engineering achievements in Canada, Hudson's Bay route, Ontario forestry, prospecting, telephone engineering, triumphs in bridge building, and the Yukon of '97 and now. So, you know, a nice wee mix of articles there. This one is Scottish Patriotism. This is an annual sermon before the St Andrews Society of Montreal. So I just stumbled across that and thought, well, it's kind of interesting. Then I've got the Constitution and Bylaws of the Scottish Volunteer Rifle Company. This was in 1860, so again, it's not a big book, but it does give a lot of the names of the officers, so that's quite good. And then I've got the book The Settlers in Canada by Captain Marryat of the Royal Navy. So again, I thought that was, well, I enjoyed reading that book, so I hope you will as well. Then on to Electric Scotland. I've continued with the Fur and Feathers series, and this week we've got the pheasant, book about the pheasant up. I've got Sir Patrick Geddes. Now, I'll noted that I was looking up him for another reason, and I found the link I had to further information about him didn't work. So I did a hunt around, I found a couple of books about him, so I've now added that to his page and removed that link that was broken. And then I've got quite a large article from Scottish Villages and Country Life. It's by an H.M. Cadell, and this is done in 1914. So I did a rough OCRing of that article because it's from a much larger publication. So I just thought you might find that of interest. Then I've got James Henry Hammond, 1807 to 1864. Basically, he's a South Carolina, but was active in the political life of the state from 1828 to 1860. He was in office only a few years. He was a representative in 1836, a governor 1842 to 1844, senator from 1857 to 1860, sorry. But essentially, he was pro-slavery, and I found out about him due to some folks that sent me in suggestions from my query last week about slavery. And so I found this quite interesting, so I thought you might enjoy reading about him. Actually, I noticed I got And there. Okay, then the next person I've given you is Patrick Sinclair. He was Lieutenant General Patrick Sinclair, 1736 to 1820. He was a British Army officer and governor in North America. He's best remembered for overseeing the construction of Fort Mackinac and Mackinac Island in what was to become the US state of Michigan. So again, that was an interesting read. Then I've also added a page for John Redwood. He's an English MP, but he does talk quite interestingly about things to do with Brexit, and so I've added a page for him within our Brexit section. In fact, the page I put up is because he gave a major talk recently, and he's decided he's going to, over the next few days, give us the whole talk on his diary. So I've copied this section of his talk and made that the page for him to start things off. Then, of course, the really huge story this week is about the Commonwealth. Because I think last year I said that I really wanted to do something major on the Commonwealth, because I don't believe many people know much about the Commonwealth. And I think it's time they did, especially with Brexit, because I really believe that the Commonwealth is key to Britain doing well in the years ahead after Brexit and we've got past the EU and so forth. So I've started this section with the Oxford Survey of the British Empire, which was produced in 1914. So it's while we still had an empire at that stage, but clearly with the two world wars after that, of course, the empire was gradually destroyed and everyone went their independent ways. So I thought it was a useful time frame to remind us of what the you might say the old Commonwealth in a way, but really the British Empire was. And it's in 6 volumes, so pretty substantial reading. But if you really want to understand the Commonwealth and how we came to this state, that gives you a really good basic starting point. I've then gone on to, I'm starting to work on each of the individual countries of the Commonwealth. There's over 50. So it's taking a time to do each page, because I'm making use of the Commonwealth resources, site resources. So I'm giving you a kind of overall key facts about each country, followed by a brief history. And then I've given you a link to the Commonwealth page for that country, which gives you more information if you wish to follow it up. But I've also tried to find YouTube videos to put up, and also to see if there's any books about the history or more information about the country. So each page will give you that type of information, and of course once I've completed all the countries in the Commonwealth, if I get any additional information I will add them onto these pages as I find it. But I'm hoping that will become a really good resource if you want to check on anything. And so the story, to set the scene, the story this week is the Commonwealth offers a clear route to building a global Britain. This was an article that was produced this month by Brexit Central, and I just thought it would set the scene and why I believe the Commonwealth is worth spending time on. So that's it essentially. Again, I'll put a link under the video to give you a link to the actual newsletter where you can get all the links to all the information that I'm providing this week. So thanks for listening.